Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. We are here with Sal DeRosalia, who is a local, Hudson Valley local information technology and media guy.
Hello.
Welcome, Sal. It's good to
Thank you
have
for
you
having
here.
me.
Thank you. So, I want to chat about you and what you do, but we are also recapping the first episode of Pokerface. So,
Yes,
you told me that that was the show you wanted to talk about.
I did.
I just will give a
I hadn't
little.
even seen it yet when I told you I wanted to talk about it. I hadn't seen an episode yet. I just had gone to my local grocery store, Tetta's, and they
Yep.
had filmed an episode of Poker Face at Tetta's or
Right.
part of it. And so I was like, okay, here's my show.
I
This is the
love
world
that.
telling me what show to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah,
How
yeah.
did you know? Did they tell you that? Or how did you
In
find
looking
that
on
out?
their social media,
Okay.
they have advertised that certainly like one of the title screenshots for the show has Tetta's in her glasses. And so they
Oh,
use that on their
yes.
Facebook page. And so that's kind of
Oh,
I
cool.
started to go down that rabbit hole and that's how I made the connection.
Yes. And let everybody know what town Tedda's is in.
Tetta's is in either Sampsonville or Olive Bridge, depending on
Okay.
how long you've been here and how you view the roads. Seriously, it's kind of, but it's I don't even know what road it's on exactly. I think
Hmm.
Old Sampsonville Road, but it's just a grocery store in the middle of nowhere, and thank God it's here because it's literally the closest thing in 15 miles. So you can
Yeah.
get gas, you can get groceries, deli stuff, pizza. Primo is
Hmm.
the owner. He's a cool guy. And
Hmm.
it's been family owned for 70 something years there
That's
in
awesome.
that location. So, yeah.
It's Tetta
S. Yeah.
apostrophe S or
hmm
apostrophe S. I'm just curious.
Tetta is the
Okay.
last name. So,
So then it's
It's like Tetta's
okay.
Market. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. And for those
Forgot I
of
was
you
speaking to the language pathologist.
pathologists, yes.
Yes.
For
I was going to get that part right. Don't worry.
Because I have to picture it in my head too.
hmm
I mean, people could Google it and find it fine, but I have to know if it's an
Yes.
apostrophe.
Yes.
Um, well, and also for those of you watching that maybe never heard of Sampsonville or Olive Bridge, it's in the, what should we say, like the Onteora School
Yeah, it's
District
certainly in the
part,
Aniora
the
School District. Yeah, it's
area.
around the Ashokan Reservoir. And
Yes,
so, like,
that would
people
help.
would, if they're looking at the Ashokan Reservoir, there's kind of like the Hurley side and all that. And then there's another side, and that's where Olive Bridge and Sampsonville and all that stuff is.
Now, I just have
So,
to point out that with being a speech pathologist and that you did grow up locally. You said Ashokan. I don't say that, even though I grew up in Sorgaties, not too
how
far.
do you
I
say
say
it?
Ashokan. Ashokan.
Ashokan. I would say Shokan. It's funny, but I would say
Shokan,
Ashokan
but Ashokan.
Reservoir. Yeah,
Isn't that
I
funny
just say
though?
it. Oh, yeah, it is.
What about, is the other one Shandaken that people know? There's another one people say two different ways.
Phoenicia?
No, I've never. Why? What's another way to say Phoenicia?
Oh, I don't know. I just didn't know if some people
Phoenicia.
did. Yeah.
Okay. Well, actually, I could go right into that before we talk about Poker Face.
hmm
You were not born here.
I was born in Queens, raised in Brooklyn,
For
and
how
then in
long?
1990, so for about 12 years, I lived in the city.
Oh,
And then my
okay.
dad got tired of having like his car broken into in Brooklyn, and
Yeah.
he owned a like an appliance repair shop, and it just literally he had the gate that you roll down in front of the window every day, and
Hmm.
he was tired of it, and so he found an acre of land and a trailer in upstate New York, literally across the street from where the Hobo Deli used to be. If people who are listeners
Hmm.
have been here for a
Hmm.
while, and that's where he moved us to. And so we were brought into like the West Hurley Elementary School, which isn't there anymore, but
Hmm.
and then that's how we ended up going on to our school district.
So you were 12, you
I
said?
was 12 when, yeah, yeah,
Is
and then
that
I
hard?
graduated on.
Sorry.
It was hard. No, it's fine. It was hard because it was very different. Like just to be very brutally honest, like New York is a melting pot. Like the city, like Queens
Yeah.
and Brooklyn, where I went to school, is a lot of different types of people. And I didn't even quite understand what race was or that people had different, like, because we were just all so different.
Hmm.
And the moment I moved to upstate New York, it was made very clear to me that I was browner than everybody else, and I'm not even that brown, but I was browner.
Mm.
And then when they saw my brother, who certainly is of a darker skin tone than I am,
Hmm.
it was definitely like, oh, he's the X.
Mm.
And growing up in Aniora, I don't know how many people of color you had in Saugerties School District, but I would imagine there weren't a ton. right? I would
No.
imagine that the demographic is similar to Ontario school district, and
Yes.
so
Yeah.
so yeah, that was the biggest difference. But like you blend into the best you can, and assimilate, and you grow up, right?
Yeah. See, I hate to, well, I probably wasn't thinking that way because coming from my perspective, I was thinking more at 12 years old. That's a difficult time, I think,
Hmm.
in many children's lives because of puberty and everything else and your friends. And that's really when you're starting to get really deeply rooted to your friends. Was that
Hmm.
hard too?
I don't even know that I can't tell you that that's ever
Okay.
even occurred as a thought in my brain. Not to say
Okay.
that hasn't affected my
Yeah.
life, and but literally, like, just as you say that, I'm like, actually, I don't. I think there was so much change going on in my life at that moment.
Yeah.
Like I had lived in a house in Brooklyn, which was a very kind of like traditional house where like my grandparents owned the house,
Mm-hmm.
my dad rented the second floor, another like one of their sons and their kids like rented the bottom floor,
Mm-hmm.
and then everybody kind of moved to Florida, and then we eventually moved upstate. And so there was just a lot of
A change.
what had been my family union, like,
Yeah.
had been kind of broken up. And
Mm.
so I think way back when, family was more of my friends than friends
Right.
were,
Yeah.
just because I had cousins that were very available to hang out with and all that stuff. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
just think that, like, when I moved, it was just such a big change. Everything was such a big change, that it was just all change to me.
Yeah. That Thank you for that. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
interesting perspective that was I didn't have when I
Hmm.
was young. So,
Hmm.
all right. Well, I guess let's get into Poker Face, which I also had
Yeah.
not watched. I had heard of it. I knew it was filmed. I didn't know exactly where. I think I did see a post on Facebook at some point
Hmm.
and realized it was around here. And so I thank you for recommending it
And they
because
filmed
I
in some
did
other
love it.
places too. I don't want Olive Bridge or Tetta. Like, I think they filmed in New Paltz. Like it was an episode where they
Yeah.
were kind of running around here. So yeah.
Yeah. So I'll just give a summary of what the show is about.
Yeah.
It's a case. It's pulled from Google. Everybody, Poker Face is a case of the week murder mystery series starring Natasha Lyonne as Charlie Cale, a casino worker on the run who gets involved in several mysterious deaths of strangers. I had no idea what it was about. No
Me
idea.
neither.
I didn't even. And did you Google it? But you Googled it before you? No, you
The
didn't.
only thing I Googled was how to watch it. I didn't Google the
Okay.
synopsis. I didn't. I literally, I didn't Google. I just saw where it came from, and
Yeah.
because that was like, I've been there. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this show.
Yeah. And you liked it.
I did. Yes.
Yes.
I actually would say that I loved the
Love.
first episode.
Yes.
Yeah, and I
Did
don't
too.
often love shows, but
Yep.
I was like, oh, you got me. Like, you just
Yeah.
sunk your teeth into me somehow, and now I got to watch the rest of
Yeah.
this.
I
So
did. I loved it too.
yeah.
Excuse me. So the first episode is called Dead Man's Hand.
Hmm.
I did notice right away they made it look like it was filmed or made in like what the late 70s ish with like the number when they did the copyright and they did the year in the
Yeah,
Roman
yeah.
numerals.
The typography. Yeah, yep, yep.
Yes. And the in fact I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be in the past because even their clothes I was a little like
Well,
the
the
fact
casino is really old. It's like
yeah,
a dungy casino, right? And so it's like the lower end of the casinos, and
yes,
so but as you come in, you don't know that, and so you're just like, what am I seeing here?
no,
Yeah.
and even and Adrian, oh my gosh, I'm messing up. Adrian Brody, look
Hmm.
his suits. I mean, he had jeans on, I
Yeah.
think, but then his jackets would be
Yes.
like
Yeah.
something that looked like from the 70s. So it
he's
did
he's
take
like
me a
the
little.
son of the casino mogul for people. Adrian Brody in the show is he's kind of the manager of the casino in this first episode, and he's the son of, right.
Yes,
And so that really that sets the stage for
that sets the
all things
stage.
that are about to happen. Yeah.
Yes, he has a lot of pressure on him because we
Yes.
find
Yeah.
out like he's a mess up, for lack of better
Hmm.
words. We don't
Hmm.
know
Yeah.
exactly what happened,
Yeah.
but we know he's
Yes.
messed up. So
This is a
his
PG-13 podcast so
yes,
far.
so his father hands him this casino because he thinks he can't mess it up because it kind of runs
Hmm.
itself.
Hmm.
I have to say that finding out that Benjamin Bratt was in this, that just pulled me in because that was one of my major crushes. That's how my silly Hotmail account got made. It's Jackie
Hmm.
Brat with 2 T's because I'm such a
Oh,
dork.
because you're married.
Because I
You're
married
married to
him.
Benjamin. Yeah.
So back my job when I worked at Morgan Stanley in the city and I was in the HR department,
Hmm.
got along very well with my coworkers. And one of them was like, they always call me, "You're such a brat. Like Jackie's such a
Hmm.
brat." So I was called like Jackie Brat. And then when email appeared
Hmm.
and we could create accounts, personal accounts, I was like, I'm going to call myself Jackie Brat. And I still have it. It's for my credit card. It's like for all my major
Yeah.
accounts. So when
Is it a Hotmail or like a
it is
MSN
a
or?
Hotmail, and I'm not letting
Oh,
it go.
wow.
I
You
got
still have a
so good
Hotmail.
start for the Hotmail. I'm like, who cares?
Uh,
I don't know.
I
I don't know.
wish I still had my old Hotmail address.
See, now I'm cool.
Yeah. Benjamin Bratt, when I see him show up in films, I get the same feeling as when I used to see Lou Diamond Phillips show up in a film.
Mm.
It was like this, like, oh yeah, you're in this film. Like, all right, let's
Yeah,
see what you have.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
yes,
know. Yeah, I
I
know what you
really
mean.
I enjoyed that he was in the show,
Yes,
and he played a very good part. Like I didn't know where he was gonna go in
I
his role,
know.
and I'm like, ooh, I like you. Like,
Yeah,
and I've only watched the first episode, and I clearly feel like there's more for his character, right? Like
yeah,
they're gonna do some stuff with his character because they're putting depth into his character even in the
yes,
first episode,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I'll just have to say real quickly. I did see him in a off Broadway play. I think I told you that.
Uh-huh.
This was hysterical. I got front row seats. I go to pick up the tickets.
Hmm.
And because that's what you had to do back then. I had to go to the ticket office and physically pick up the tickets before, not even
It's
the day
called
of the
Will
show.
Call for all you young folks.
Yes, not through the internet or anything. And she goes, I go, "Oh my gosh, I got front row seats." And she goes, "Well, please just do not talk to him during the play." And I was like, "Well, I wouldn't. What do you mean?" I was like, "What? I wouldn't talk to him? What do you mean?" She goes, "We had a woman in here who would not stop talking to him, and they had to
Oh
kick
my
her
God.
out." She kept like talk, and no joke, this was more than front row. The stage was like a table at my
Yeah.
chest. I mean, I
Oh
could have
wow.
reached out and grabbed him.
Yeah,
I did
yeah.
not, but
Yes.
it was great.
That's a
It was
lot of self-control there.
Oh, it was. He is really tall, which I didn't realize until I saw him in person. And I was like looking at him, obviously, like in the show, and he does look
uh,
very, to me, very tall in it, actually. But usually, a lot of actors aren't very tall. So anyway,
he's kind of got that tall, lean look.
yeah, he
Yeah.
looks very, very thin in this. Like
Hmm.
I remember in person, I feel like he's thinner now than because I know him so well. He's thinner
Well, I
now.
mean, you are the wife of,
I
right?
am,
I mean,
I am married
you
to
have
him
the
in
email
my
account
mind.
to prove it.
Yeah, I don't have to, if anything ever happens.
Correct.
Anyway,
Yes.
oh
Yes.
my gosh. Okay, digressing. All right, so go into, I guess, this episode. You've said some stuff. So he plays, yes, we have Adrian Brody playing Sterling Frost. What's weird
Hmm.
though is she called him Mr. Sterling. At one point he was called Mr. Sterling, but the last name's actually Frost.
Yeah, but
Kind of a
I
little
get called
confusing.
Mr. Sal sometimes. It just depends on how people are referring
True.
to. Yeah. So I don't know that it just wasn't a slip of that
That's what I
more
was
than a
wondering.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I
and
have a feeling like they could have made that mistake and just been like, whatever, keep it in there.
that's what I
We're
kind
not
of
doing this
thought.
scene again. Yes.
Yes.
See, this would be the good information. It's like we watch this whole
I
thing.
Googled.
That's all we want to know. It's like,
I
hey,
know.
can we talk to Benjamin Bratt? And when you guys were doing this, did you screw this up on purpose or because that's
Like,
all we want to know.
I
We don't care about your next movie. We don't care about the next episode.
just need to know.
Yeah,
Was it on
yes.
purpose?
Yes,
Um,
yes.
Also, going all around here, but also, her the person who plays Natalie. I have her name here. Oh my gosh.
She didn't last too long though.
No, she didn't last too long, but I still looked her name up. Oh, here we go. Duh, it's right here. I think it's pronounced Dasha because it's
Sure.
Dascha. Polanco,
Yeah,
Polanco.
I like that.
And when I first saw her, now I watched Orange is the New Black, and
Hmm.
Natasha Lyonne was in that, and then so was Dasha.
Hmm.
So when I first saw Dasha, I actually was like, that looks like the girl from Orange is the New Black. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, it took a few scenes. It's kind of funny to
Hmm.
finally I was like, that's her. So anyway, she's in that. She plays Charlie's, I guess, best friend, um, Natalie. And
She played
Natalie,
Charlie's best friend.
yeah, Natalie did,
Spoiler
sorry.
alert.
She, she played,
Well,
yes.
well, you keep
There's a
talking in
lot
the
of
present
spoilers.
tense, yeah, and I'm
Well,
trying to let people
see,
know
when I
if you're
recap,
if you're there to see Natalie.
You'll see her a little bit.
Yeah,
First episode.
just hit the pause button in the beginning.
Yeah. But I see also too when I see two people, and like Natasha Lyonne, I think produced this show and everything too. So I think, well, they must be friends from Orange is the New
Yes,
Black.
absolutely.
It's just
Or
it's
from
just
yeah,
cute,
absolutely.
It's
Yes.
cute. And then they obviously like each other and stuff. So it's just cute to see that. I mean, and I also feel like she got like, I don't know if it was her or whoever, but like Adrian Brody, didn't he win an Oscar at some point? Like, these are,
Probably. He's pretty good at the stuff
yeah,
he does, so I wouldn't doubt it.
yeah. So
The one
hard
thing I just
hitters
want
in
to
here.
tell your listeners too is that
Hmm.
this kind of the premise of this is that she gets into kind of all these calamities and these, but the issue is that she kind of has this superpower. And the
She does.
superpower is that she can read people to know if they're intentionally lying or not.
Yes.
And so there's just
Should
a
have got you
background for that. And oh no, we're getting there. But I just I didn't want people to miss that part because
Yeah.
actually I just saw it in a note here. So
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's important. Let me remember to bring that up.
Yeah. So that's her special gift. That's where the name Pokerface comes from. So
Yes.
basically she, back, I don't know how many years before this supposed episode, she was going around and playing poker and winning and cleaning up, and she did not have a grand plan. She just was kind of going with it. And when she got to that casino, Sterling Frost's father there, senior, was watching her. And he couldn't figure out. Yeah, he couldn't figure out. He thought she could see through the cards because he just couldn't figure it out. So he gave her a job. He basically wanted to contain her and stop her from doing it, So I'll go with this part of the story. So Adrian Brody, the son, decides, finds out about it, and he decides that he would like her to help him get like the high rollers, because the one high roller, Mr. Kane, has been having private poker games in his suite on premise, gets comped, all this stuff, and it hasn't been spending as much money because he's having these private games.
So
and they
Brody's character basically feels like he's being stolen from.
Yes.
And so he's going to steal back.
He's going to steal back. He's going to hit him where it hurts. That's what he says. And he also wants to prove something to his dad, right? So in the meanwhile, though, sorry, it's hard to. So in the beginning, basically, Natalie is a housekeeper, right? At the hotel. Housekeeper at the hotel. She goes into Mr. Kane's room. She's cleaning, and she sees something on the laptop. We figure out it's a child porn. And so she takes a picture of it. She has to get her phone though and like turn it on and takes the picture. She goes straight to Cliff, who is Benjamin Bratt, my husband, and he's security, quote unquote, right? Security. And so he takes her immediately to Sterling,
who's also Adrian Brody's henchman.
Yes, Cliff is Adrian Brody's henchman. And so she shows it to him, and he's like, oh yeah, you did the right thing. I guess we'll call the police. Like, you felt like there's something weird here, right?
Yeah, and you knew that something was fishy. Yeah.
So he sends her home, and he's like, is your husband home? She says yes. And so she leaves, and she doesn't even say like goodbye. You could see there's one of her coworkers.
They tell her not to clock out. They purposefully guide her in a way that is going to be mysterious. So she doesn't clock out normally. Right. She doesn't call the normal people she might normally call.
Yeah.
So it's weird. Yeah.
So I think then they show her home and her husband watching TV, and someone, I think, bangs on the door. Doesn't he say?
That someone is your husband.
That someone is my husband. But what I find funny is her husband, Jerry, I think is his name, says, we're not voting, or we voted.
Yes. Yeah. We're not voting, or like it's some solicitor.
It was like nighttime.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just thought that was funny that that's what he thought it was. So anyway.
But I would guess that comes from something that happens in Vegas. Like, I bet you somewhere like in Vegas that people are soliciting and so I would imagine that they pulled that from like the culture of Vegas.
Well,
and I would love to, like, there's another thing we should find out.
I know, those are the little things that I'm like, why did he say that?
Maybe you should go on a road trip to Vegas and knock on somebody's door at, I don't know, 8:00 at night and see how far
see if they scream out, I voted, or I'm not voting. That's hysterical.
A side note here: the husband of Natalie is an abuser, or
Sorry.
he
Yeah.
abuses Natalie, and
Yeah.
so what's about to happen is about to happen because he already is an abuser of Natalie, and so
Hmm.
this is going to be a very convenient next scene here. So
Yes. So
please,
Cliff,
I just
no, that's okay. So Cliff comes in because it starts off, you're just seeing Natalie's story, really.
hmm
You don't see Natasha Lyonne at all.
hmm
So Cliff, he opens the door, I think, for Cliff, and Cliff shoots him immediately, kills him. Which
hmm
I was like, I don't know. I mean, I kind of thought that, but then I was like, where? Like, I don't know. I got
It was
so
sudden, yeah.
it was sudden. Then Natalie comes home
hmm
and
Guess the
shoots,
same thing. Yeah.
shoots her immediately.
hmm Yeah, I did
And
not. I was not expecting that opening. Like that was a
no,
very. I was like, oh, here, okay. Well,
okay,
I
this
guess
is
you're
that.
not part of
I
the show
know.
anymore.
No, no, I know. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think that they do show Cliff puts this gun in
Yes, he puts it
Jerry's
in
hand
the yes, and it's a
to
stage
make it look
suicide.
like a murder suicide. Yeah.
hmm
So then they don't. So I thought this was interesting. They show the scene. So they show, sorry, when Natalie's driving home, they show her car and they show the little Hawaiian wiggly
hmm
dog on her dashboard, right?
hmm
You're like, okay. So then the scene basically, I think after both of them are killed, I think it goes to Natasha Lyonne, like on her phone, Charlie, and then her car. So basically, her car won't start. I mean, she lives in a
hmm
trailer. It looks
hmm
it's funny because you feel like you kind of feel dirty watching. I don't mean,
hmm
you know what I mean, like your body feels like a little
Yeah.
dirty, like you have the feel of it. And there's like a neighbor that looks like Elvis. He's trying to look
hmm
like Elvis. I think he's like a thief. He breaks into homes or something. Anyway, she's
hmm
like pops a beer, wakes up, pops a beer. So then, so her car won't start. So she gets a ride with Natalie.
hmm
And so without them putting anything on the screen, you figure out, oh, this must be previous.
hmm
So I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting. I mean, obviously you can figure it out, but I don't think I've totally ever seen a
hmm
show where they don't put that on the screen.
Yeah.
Anyway,
No, no,
I thought that
absolutely.
was interesting. So basically, long story short, if I can do this,
Yeah, sorry.
so Charlie gets asked in the midst of this, gets asked to do this job with Sterling, and he's going to pay her and all this stuff, and he's
hmm
trying to convince her to do it, and this is all happening on the same day that Natalie sees this picture. So
hmm
um, this sends once this happens, this sends Charlie into obviously a tizzy, and she's trying to figure this out, and she is figuring out
hmm
little holes
She's putting the
because
clues together
she's
of
putting the clues
how
together. Yeah,
her friend could have gotten murdered, or who, the who, the what, the when,
realizing,
yeah,
yeah,
all that stuff.
like didn't clock out, and something must have
hmm
upset her, and it happened here, and because they were like,
hmm
oh, maybe her husband called, and she said no, she
Yeah,
doesn't
she's
leave
looking at
her phone, she doesn't
timestamps
go
from
through all
text
this.
messages and yeah,
Yeah,
all that stuff.
then she gets Natalie's iPad and gets into it,
hmm
and goes into the cloud because Sterling
hmm
had deleted that picture off of Natalie's phone, and sees this picture. And again, they never show anything on camera because I don't think they really legally could.
Yeah,
But
they're always just implying that somebody's
implying
looking at something terrible.
terrible.
Absolutely,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. So Charlie basically figures it out. She can tell when Sterling is lying because he had gotten the call from Cliff that
hmm
everything was done with Natalie, and
Yeah.
right after that, Charlie had asked, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah. And she goes, I know it wasn't. And so what
hmm
she ends up doing is records their conversation about him getting Mr. Kane,
hmm
um, for lack of a better
Yep,
word,
about them
taken.
ripping off the guy.
Yeah, yeah,
About them ripping off the
yeah.
casino guy.
And she sends it to him, to Mr. Kane, not to the police, but to Mr.
To
Kane.
the dad.
She sends it to she sends it to the high roller. She
Oh,
sends it
I
to
didn't
Mr.
pick
Kane.
that up. I thought
Really?
she sent it to the dad,
I watched it
and that's
twice.
what.
No,
Oh,
no, she doesn't. She doesn't
oh,
want anything to do with
oh,
that
that's
dad.
right.
She's
That's
scared of
why
him.
he left. That's why Mr. Kane left.
Yes.
Okay.
So
So
Mr.
this is why
Kane.
people should have these review shows. See?
I always watch. I watched twice. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
so she sent it to Mr. Kane. So he immediately was leaving and telling all the high roller friends.
Hmm.
So she basically was completely
She screwed
screwing
over his
the
casino
casino.
over.
She
Yeah,
screwed over the
yeah.
casino because she said, "I'm going to hit it where it hurts."
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
immediately, Sterling kills himself. He goes out and
Yeah,
jumps
he
out the window.
literally walks off a balcony.
Which previously, which kind of foreshadowed it because he had said when I don't even want to call her Natalie, um, probably because her name is Natasha.
Yeah.
Charlie, when Charlie was basically saying she knew what happened and he did it, he's
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh well, what do you think? They're people. First of all, if you go to the police, people are going to believe you, and you've been
Yeah.
distraught, and your friend
Uh-huh.
died, and then you just
Hmm.
happened to jump over the balcony. So,
Yeah.
a little foreshadow. So
Oh
he kills
yeah.
himself. Cliff's like, oh my god. Like Cliff just
Ruh-roh.
starts laughing at first and is like, ha ha ha, what are you? Oh, because his dad starts calling him.
Yes, yes.
Sterling's
Yeah.
dad starts calling him, and then then he jumps off the balcony. So then
Hmm.
Cliff goes right after Charlie. She does get grazed with a bullet.
Hmm.
And she does escape. She
She does. She gets down the stairwell.
she gets down the stairwell, but then she goes into a room where somebody's cleaning, one of the housekeepers that
Hmm.
she knows, and she just breaks the window. She must be on the first floor though, clearly, because she does
Yes.
go out the
Let's
window,
hope. Let's
or at
hope.
least a
Yeah.
low floor. And she does get out, and she before she destroys her cell phone, Mr. Frost there, senior, calls
Hmm.
her, and he's
Hmm.
basically like, just tell me where you are.
He's letting her know, just like I'm coming to get you.
I'm
There's no
coming to get you.
place you can hide.
Yeah.
There's no place you can go. I'll find you. He says, I'll spend the rest of my years
Yeah.
finding you.
Yeah.
And because he's an older man, but
Yep.
he's got to now avenge the death of his son, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that kind of is the beginning and the end of this episode is when they're telling you about the initial interaction between the old casino owner and how he first catches her. One of the things he says is, "You've created a real mess."
Yes.
And at the end, again, because of what she's done, or because she's tried to solve this murder, now the casino doesn't have, high rollers who are going to come. The son just walked off a cliff, walked off the ledge and killed himself. So in the eyes of the dad, again, you've created a big mess here again.
Yes.
And so that now he's got to, he said, I gave you a chance and I gave you a job, and here you are, screwed me over 20 years later, or whatever it is. So
yeah.
It's a good way to set up the rest of the
Yes.
episodes in the season, for sure.
We know she's on the run. You have so in choosing that show, what parts of it did you connect with, or maybe did you see yourself in at all?
Sure. The parts of me wanting to like solve crime and be some like good vigilante. There's definitely a part of me that would love to be some like crime fighting Batman-y type,
Oh, cool.
Let's see, what other parts did I connect to? I'm not really much of a gambler. I think I can tell when people are BSing or not, but that's what I think my superpower is.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought you were going to say. Because I'm
Yeah,
psychic.
I mean, she's clearly much better, but yeah, I mean, that's why you knew I would say that, because you're psychic.
That's right. That's my superpower.
But yeah, I think that it was more of the, kind of being able to read people, but yeah, it was just, I just liked it. It was very kind of compelling, and it was like a good page turner book, right? Like there weren't many like dead scenes where you're like, why is this here? And so yeah, and it made me want to, episode 9. We were just talking about episode 1. Episode 9 is the episode with Tetta's market in it, right? So like I have 8 more episodes to watch before I even get to the one that has the one with the market in it.
Yes.
But it's like I can't wait to see it, because it's like, they're trapped in the woods, and that's how it is out here. So I'm like, oh, this is going to be a great episode. This is yeah.
They're like, that's my childhood. No.
Yes.
I used to play in the woods.
Yes.
Every day.
Yes.
Sometimes get a little lost.
So what part did you connect to the most?
Hmm.
Breaking the phone on the rock, or
I've never done that.
like,
Oh yeah, I forget. Being scared for my life. No, I don't know. I guess because I was trying to think of that actually,
hmm
what I connected to. I don't know if I think that I just liked her character a lot, and I think that pulled me in. I liked how realistic it felt. I don't know
correct.
necessarily.
Yeah. If it felt like that could be real. Yeah.
Yeah, it felt very
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know. I'm trying to think. I think too, like looking at these two characters and their lives. I feel like
hmm
they have almost like dead end lives, and it made me almost be like, you could have more than this. And not
Yeah,
that
it's funny, and
I,
I appreciated that. I
yeah,
appreciated that she didn't want for much. She just wanted to not have any trouble. She's
yeah.
like, "Look, I'm good. Like, I
It's
just want
almost like
this. It
she's
makes me
tired. It's almost
happy."
like she's a little bit defeated, though. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's how
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, that's how
For
I
sure.
interpret
I certainly I see that for sure. I just think for her, it's like she can't be who she is, because if she is, she's probably going to get herself into trouble.
trouble.
And so
Well,
she's
that's what I
like
think.
she's like a superhero who has to live in the shadows, kind of.
Yeah, she can't
Yeah.
use her power
Yes.
to the
Yes. Yeah.
ultimate way.
Correct.
Um,
Yes. Yeah.
and I think that attracted me because I almost never thought of that
hmm
being used in the ways she's going to be using it. I really
Yeah.
didn't,
Yeah.
you know.
hmm
So I guess that's what I liked
Yeah.
about it. I liked the whole, is it called, from the look of it. Like I said, like it looked
hmm
older, and like the
Yep.
colors though were like a
hmm
rich, deep color. I
hmm
liked that. I also was enthralled with her hair because it's wild. I don't know if this is
Yep.
gonna sense. I know you probably
But
wouldn't
it's
notice
great.
it.
Her hair
Yes,
was great.
she can
Yes.
have. She has great hair, but it's like wild. It's a little frizzy. I fight my frizz all the time. I
hmm
have natural wave, but nothing is ever symmetrical. It always
Just let
goes
it
where it wants
happen,
to go.
girl. You just need
Well,
to
I
let
do, but
that
it's still
flow.
like hers still looked better than mine, even though she had. I was trying to figure out her haircut. I'm like, is it a wig? Like that's what I get stuck on. I'm like staring at the back of her
Mm.
head. I see different layers. I'm
No,
like,
they just teased that hair. They just did her hair right.
but I
I
swear she
bet you
has
that's
like
hers.
a chop, and then like she had layers in it that are very
She could have
noticeable.
some extensions, little,
Yeah, I should have looked
you
this
know.
up.
Nobody's hair is too short to be unbelievable. I'm
Good
just
one.
saying.
Yeah. So I don't. That's I guess what attracted me. I also was like staring at their makeup, like those things.
hmm
And Benjamin Bratt is going to keep me interested, even though I know
Did
he's
you
not in.
did you identify with her being like this kind of like internal badass? There's your first
Oh, curse.
asterisk word. I
Um.
used it again. I didn't even know.
It's all right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
you hope that if you were in that situation, you would do like I
yeah,
hope that if I was in her situation, I would have done the
yeah.
same thing. Really went after them. I don't know, like I guess it's your friend, and
You seem to
you're
have a little
scared.
Punky Brewster in you. Like you, I
I
feel
love
like
Punky
you're.
Brewster.
Oh, I know, me too. But she like I just feel like, but like you seem to like have that like that you wouldn't let somebody do something bad to somebody you love and then just let
Oh
it
no.
like so that's what I'm saying. Like I feel
Yeah.
like you would become somebody who hunted down the people who hurt you or hurt your
Yeah.
family.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
God,
Yeah.
that's never gonna happen, but yeah.
Yeah.
So
Better. No. Yeah.
that's right.
No.
Man.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. So that I guess I could relate to that part.
Who knew Jackie was a little vigilante inside? There we go.
Jackie Brat.
That's right. That could be
Stubborn.
your.
Stubborn brat. Definitely stubborn. Um. Well, let's get more into you.
Sure.
Uh, So I think I was thinking and connecting because you said information technology and media guy. Now someone might be like, all right, they hear
Sure.
technology, they hear
I,
media.
f- I fix computers, I build networks, I build websites, I help people fix their not awesome websites. I also do some videography, I do interviews, I do live streaming, I do podcasting,
Yeah.
I do show notes, I do public communications, like press releases. So, like, kind of all the things that encompass that. But I have a specialty, which is technology. And so I'm able to really weave that technology specialty in with the communications to kind of amplify people's message, because usually you have to go to separate people for that. Like you'll have a marketing person, and then you have to go to your AdWords person, and you're this, and somebody to build your website. And I can do a lot of that well. I certainly will subcontract other people if it needs to be done weller, for the client.
More well.
Correct. I know. I did that on purpose.
I know.
I'm having fun with the speech pathologist.
You're messing with
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I do. That's what I've been doing for many years. I used to own just a strict technology company, like in the Seattle area. I owned a gym for 10 years. And then in 2020, when everything shut down, I had to shut down my gym. And I eventually made the decision to move back from Seattle to New York, and just kind of started doing the media communications, IT stuff back here. So yeah.
My first impression of you was you were more the marketing person, but you were good with technology. So it's funny because it sounds like you led with technology, and
Yeah, I think my background is more historically in the technology, but what I do now more is marketing for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why too I thought you'd relate to her skill of like being able to tell when people are lying. Because marketing is, I'm not gonna say marketing is lying, but it's you don't want to be coming across like you're lying.
It's speaking into people's listening.
Yes.
Like what I found as a marketer, I used to think I hate sales, I hate salespeople, I hate marketers, and then I got a job working for a software company as someone who did some sales. And what I learned from someone who I don't like at all as a human, but what they taught me was a very valuable lesson. No, they did. They said you need to not worry about how much something costs, because that's dependent upon the other person. They said you need to find out what that person wants, which means you ask the question and you shut up, you listen, and then you speak about the value of what you have into what they want, right? So it's not about, is this $29.95? It's about how valuable is this thing to you, this service, this item, this. And if it's valuable to you, then like $29.95 is nothing. Right? Because for most people, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. We could look at your bank statement and I could show you all the lattes and I could show you all the thises and all the, so like there's very rare that people, even who don't have money, don't spend some money frivolously, right? So it's just, kind of about narrowing that all down.
Yeah, it's, I don't think I have skills in that. Or like I don't, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if I honed in, or maybe, but
it's just a muscle we decide to exercise or not exercise, just like anything, right? Like learning a language or literally anything. And so, yeah, absolutely.
But so that's what is, I just had it. What excites you in your work?
Sure. No, I'll tell you that. So I literally just got done doing 3 political websites for people in Washington State, right? Because their election cycle is a little bit different than New York State cycle. And so I just came from Washington State for the past 20 years. So I still have a lot of relationships there. And to be honest, it helps me to not be there because I'm not seen as having an allegiance to, I'm just doing work now, right?
Yeah.
But so I will tell you right now, I work for people who would say that they are on the right. I work for people who would say they're on the left. My bare minimum is I have to be okay with who you are as a human being and what you're putting out there in the world, right?
Yeah.
So like I won't do work for people that I have some like very core, some stuff with.
Yeah.
That said, I literally got to like see people like grow up in a 40-day period because I've run a campaign personally for myself, and I understand like what you learn along the way.
Yeah.
And to see somebody go from I want to be on the school board or I think I can help to becoming like a real candidate who can speak to real issues, and like that, it's just amazing to see that like from a human perspective. And so to get to be involved with people like on that level, I really love that part of my job.
Cool.
I love being able to like communicate people's like if I'm talking to somebody about their show, like sometimes I give advice to people about their podcast or this or that. And so to be able to like to just use what I have learned and to be able to give that away and like people can take what they want. Oh, that fits for me, and no, this doesn't. Like that's what I'm here for. That's the goal of my life, is to kind of take in information and then make it useful to the people. If I can get paid to do that, awesome, right? That's the goal, right? It's like, no, I really, and so, but yeah, it's just been like working with the different kinds of people, and also with what I do, I'm rarely doing the same thing twice in a row.
That's
So
cool.
even if I'm building a website twice in a row, it's a different person. I'm
Mm-hmm.
learning something, like I have to learn about that person's business
Yeah.
and them as a person. So I become like a mini subject matter expert in
Yeah.
what I'm doing, because I just really have to pay that much attention to be able to produce a
Yeah.
product for somebody that is, kind of emanating who they are, or what they're
Yeah.
doing. So, yep.
So it's really it's the connection with the people and really having the
Yep. Yeah.
relationships.
And how it allows me to be creative. I used to
Yeah.
never think of myself as a creative
Mm-hmm.
person at all. And
Mm-hmm.
I very much think of myself as that now,
Yeah.
because I'm constantly having to reinvent how to like tell a story, or how do
Yep.
we tell Jackie's story instead of
Mhm.
Joe's story, right? Because they're two different
Right.
people. So you can't use the same this, or you can't,
Yeah.
so whatever it is. But yeah, just all that.
That's awesome. That's awesome, but it is. I say. Actually, it's funny because I was going to ask you your history of politics in terms of what
Ooh,
you ran
here we
for.
go.
No, yeah, we're not going to go deep into politics. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
but
sure.
just what you ran
Right
for.
here, I ran for this, for city council, for Bainbridge
Okay,
Island City
Cambridge.
Council,
Okay,
Central Ward District 5. Um, and I did that in 2020 or 2021, something like that.
okay. Well, you moved back here though, and
In late 2021, in December 20. So I
okay,
actually ran in 2021. Now it makes sense,
okay,
because
okay.
I declared in March. I actually visited New York in April, and I made the decision that if I won my primary or my race, I would stay in Washington, and if I didn't, I would move home.
Oh,
And so I ran my primary. I did not win, and I moved home that December.
did you going into it think one way or the other that you were going to, that you definitely weren't, you really weren't sure? I mean, I know
When
you
I
went in wanting
applied,
to, I
sure,
assume, but
sure. When I applied, I thought there was probably a 50-50 chance of me
okay.
winning, because there was two candidates. It was
Hmm.
me, and then there was a mayor, who was in that district, and she was rerunning, but she had become pretty unpopular with a lot
Oh,
of groups. And
huh,
so I had been asked to run to oppose
okay.
her.
Ah,
What I didn't know is that somebody else had also been asked to run to oppose her, and that person was handpicked by the Democratic gods. And I kid you not, like like
oh,
they literally were
bother.
like, "We're going to put you right here," which means you get all the endorsements, you get all the
Yeah.
money, you get all the, and that's where you learn about the political machine. In my opinion, is
Hmm.
like when you're in there and you just look down and you see a train coming, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh wow, I thought that was the same train that had kind of been asking me to help out, and then you're like, oh no, they're just going to run you the whatever over, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was very interesting. It was mildly disappointing that human
Yeah.
beings would behave in certain ways, but the other thing
Hmm.
I'll say is that I really appreciate when reality shows itself. Regardless of how I feel about it, I would rather
Yeah.
see the truth about what's going to happen, because then I
Yeah.
get to make a better decision next
Yeah.
time, if I make that better
Right.
decision, right?
That's
And so my better decision was to make money off of politics
Yeah.
instead
Well,
of
that's
be
what I was
in
gonna say.
politics.
You're like the perfect person to help someone with their campaign because you did
I
it.
tell them the truth too.
Yeah.
I
No,
tell them the
that's
truth. I
awesome.
say,
And you
hey, this is
still
my experience.
want to work with that. So hey, you some people
What
might
I
become
know is that it's going to happen one, like, meaning there will be politics, there will
right.
be people running for office, there will be elections. And so just like kind of with growth in our area or whatever,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want a bunch of big buildings. I don't want like
Right.
Saugerties or Woodstock or Olive Bridge to look like Manhattan.
Right.
However, my best guess is that growth will happen whether I like it or not.
Right.
And so I can choose to like try to usher that in a way where I'm a part of that and I get some
Hmm.
say, or I can be on the outside saying, I don't want this here and you
Right.
shouldn't be able to do that. And so it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and so for me, how I choose to want to like be a part of that system these
Yeah.
days is to counsel the people who are going to go do that, right?
Hmm.
Because what I know for me is that I don't want to go and be a part of that machine directly. I don't like how
Right.
that feels. I don't
Yep.
like what you got to do to get there. I don't like what you got to
Yeah.
do to stay there.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody does it, but I
Right.
ain't seen a person yet that hasn't. So
Yeah. Hmm.
but yeah, it's like I would rather be a good human to the people who are doing that, so that they can maybe have some
Hmm.
idea of what will happen, so they're a little bit less jaded by the time they get there. They're like, oh, you know
Yeah.
what, Sal told me that they were going to do that, and like at least I knew, kind of thing. So yeah, and it's just been a great experience. So I do a lot of that, and I also just do a lot of working with people and their businesses to help
Hmm.
not rebrand them, but just like Joe the cookie maker is Joe the cookie maker. He's not Joe the marketer. He's not Joe the advertiser. He
Right.
doesn't know necessarily how to do all that stuff. And
Yeah.
so I try to like understand Joe to the best of Joe's ability for him to communicate with me like who he is, and then to kind of broadcast that out in a way that is very much them, but is also speaking into the listening of the people he's trying to get to buy the cookies, right? And so to me, it's all about speaking into people's listening rather than telling them what I want them to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, I was just thinking how you were saying that. I think in today's times with all the social media and people maybe going viral and then all of a sudden they're famous, it looks like that, like overnight. I think people expect when they start something that they have to be the marketer, the web designer, and they can, because it's all, in a way like, okay, I have Squarespace, I can make my website, and then I can go on social media and I can do my posts and I can do that. And you almost feel bad, I know from my experience, like, well, how come I worked so hard on these, like, but I'm still not. I mean, some might, get noticed or something, but I'm not a marketer.
But it's not even that. It's just that the expectation that people have when they do these things is not real. No. Right. It's not realistic. The people who go viral, the people who you see have been trying to do that for years, every single day. And they finally got one of their 1 million videos to hit the thing, and then boom, they keep going. But it's like,
and that video might have been 2 years old too. That's what's even, no, I know, absolutely, totally.
And that's the other thing is I think that I am an expectation manager. I think that what I do when I talk to a lot of people is like, you can, like, if we wanted, just for your podcast, if we wanted 1,000 people to go see your podcast, the only thing we'd have to do is spend money to do that.
Right.
All we'd have to do is buy ads, and then you would literally get now it may cost you $10 per visit.
Right.
And so all of a sudden that's not a good investment maybe. but no, but or the thing could be, you get people to look at your thing and you're not ready for people to click on your link to go to your store to buy your thing. Right. And so to me, it's really about preparing people for that whole life cycle that they think they want, because they may not know what that really is gonna take from them. Like you have found out by doing this podcast and the podcast, you actually know to some degree what it takes to record one, edit one, set up my camera, make sure the mics work, do the show notes, upload it to the thing, create the title screen. And that I haven't even mentioned half of it yet, right? But the sheer volume of, you're like, damn, okay. And so it's a real commitment to want to keep that up, like to keep that machine going. And so and I really mean this, like, I commend you for doing it on any level, because I do know what it takes. And I know how easy it is to be like, I can't do this.
Especially I don't make money.
But that's what I'm saying. And so it'd be really
complete passion for me that I
absolutely
love.
Yes.
And not burnt out.
Bless you for it. I really mean it. It really takes a lot to keep doing this. So,
in fact, it's made me want more.
People that do.
That's why I'm doing the show.
Good.
It's funny because you kind of mentioned it. I had politics history in there, and then you were talking about what are maybe some local topics that are important to you.
Sure. Local topics that are important.
I mean, you talked about, you said about being more built up here. And you said, okay, my attitude will be that. So
growth is certainly a topic here. I think so I am a major proponent of people getting involved in local politics. I think that the vast majority of people are involved in national, or they think they're involved in national politics because they listen to the news or they can repeat a talking point.
Yeah.
But I think that most people are so detached from local politics that it's unreal. And I think that most things that happen in most people's daily lives happen because of what happened at the county level. It's literally about the sewers. It's about your taxes. It's about, what I found out by doing a lot of that is that most people don't know that, like, their school taxes may be different from their county taxes, may be different from, and it just depends on your jurisdiction. But like the how you hold accountable and who you hold accountable and how you go about doing that, that's important. And when everybody shows up when there's just some like fireball issue, but they're not showing up for all the other PTA meetings or the school board meetings or the city council meetings, like, you're showing people that you're not really invested in your community until it's like this, oh my God, I'm gonna, and what I think is that if more people were involved more of the time, this, first of all, none of this stuff would be a surprise because we'd all see it coming down the pipe, right?
Right.
You'd have more people in your community who would be able to report back to the Facebook groups or the friend groups, like, hey, this is what's going on at the council meeting this weekend, or here's what went on at the PTA meeting. But because people are so involved with their own lives, right, which they should be to some degree, but this is such an individualistic society that we live in. It's like all about us or my family, or I'm trying to take care of this, that nobody's really looking out for the community.
And I think too, what ends up happening is people feel like they're getting involved because they'll post their opinion.
Absolutely, yeah.
But typically it comes from a place of anger and it's attacking someone else, and it got you nowhere. Like, it might have felt good to get it out, and I get it, but you actually did, if you feel like you did something, you did nothing except you spread the hate. And
you may even be right. You may be right. Like, who cares? It does. Like, you're probably saying that into an echo chamber of people who either agree with you or who are totally against you.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, those people who choose to go and get elected and sit on those boards, like, they're actually the ones who are truly willing to do that work, because they got to eat every single piece of everything from everyone. Yeah. And then they have to still go there and be an advocate for the school district or the kids or whoever.
Yeah.
So as much as I may not even agree with them or like some of the people who are in office, I respect it.
Yes.
Because of the sheer amount of, especially at the PTA city council, those people aren't getting compensated.
No.
And all they're doing is when they go to the grocery store, they're trying not to get yelled at.
Yeah.
Like, literally, that's their life, right? Like,
I know.
No, and it's sad, but it's like, that's how we treat the people that we want to, like, stick up for us.
Yes.
And the only reason we do that is because as a whole, we're really not involved. And so we're so separated from it. We can just judge it. Like, let me just tell you what you're doing wrong, PTA member or board member or school teacher or whoever. And I'm not even just talking about the schools. I was much more involved on, like, a city government, like a council level. But yeah, to me, people really getting involved on a granular level in their community, people being the coaches of their children's teams, not the people who are just willing to pay the fee to pay the coach. But like, that's how you get involved in your kid's life. That's how you change what happens in that stuff. It's not, I paid my taxes, so now I get to complain on Facebook.
And also, you might learn some things that you actually just didn't know. Like, you just have in your head, I don't like this because it's not fair, but I don't really know why. But also, I just want to say one more thing that I can't stand is when people start attacking other people, like saying what they say they want, but they don't say why, or they don't say, hey, this might suck to you and blah, 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 but think about this, instead they just attack each other. And all I think of is divide and conquer people. So we're all just messing ourselves up because that's what they want. They
and I don't
possibly
know
want us divided, so that they can conquer. Duh.
It's much easier. It's much easier for any administration to continue to do whatever it is they might want to do if the people out here are going, because they're never going to have a significant enough vote to sway that administration, right? So, but I would love for people to be involved more, and I have no problem with people commenting on Facebook. My stuff with that is, like, I would hope that people have educated themselves to kind of all sides of the issue before they go dump in the vacuum chamber. And if they think that actually helps, I would love to see the data from that. Like, I complained on Facebook 18 times about this thing, and then this finally happened, right? Somebody was complaining about the Saugerties Police Department having unmarked vehicles on the road, and everybody was coming up with these wild, this is why. And I literally just typed in there, I go, why doesn't somebody call the police station and ask them?
No,
so they did, and they found that exactly. And it's like, so to me, there's like, we can have all this discussion, like we can all this noise, or if what we really want is the truth, we can just ask the person that can give us the answer, give the information, and then we can all make up our minds about how we feel. But to like banter about it before we even may know what's going on, I don't know. Just seems.
I know. Facebook community groups is a whole other show.
I was gonna say, God bless them. I mean, just yes, I love it. We could do a whole show that just picks topics from any one of these local community groups, and then we talk about the topic.
And we talk about the comments because it's fantastic.
Viral.
Also, I will say I was an administrator. I guess we'd call them an admin on a Facebook group, not a community Facebook group, a show Facebook group. That was wild, but that's a whole other. Because I wasn't a huge diehard fan of the show. Not that I hated the show, but they were like intense. The other admins on there. Anyway. All right, I think that's it. Look at that.
All right.
Almost an hour. So thanks again. How can people find you?
You can go to Rue, R-U-E, Works, W-O-R-K-S, Inc., I-N-C.com.
Okay.
Rue
Oh,
Works, Inc. That's my dog. She
I
doesn't
was
really
going to
do any of the
say,
work. She usually just sits in the car or stays at home. But I didn't want to make it like Sal Works and I do all my work to support my child, which is Rue.
yeah, I love
So
that.
yeah, Rue Works Inc. I also do something called Feature Race TV. I go to a local go-kart track in Poughkeepsie, and these kids, actually kids from adults, I would say from ages 4 to 70,
Hmm.
speed around this racetrack and going 50, 60 miles an hour. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like little boys, little girls. I
Wow.
mean, just
Yeah.
it's been one of the coolest things and to see how it empowers those young people,
Hmm.
it's pretty amazing. So I also do that too. That's where I do some videography and stuff like that.
That's cool.
So that's what I got.
All right.
Where can they find you?
Whew. You can find me. Um, you can find me on Instagram,
The
right?
IG?
Yeah, the IG. I mean, I think that the best one would be for this show would be just my Jackie and the Sticks, JackieInstix, for now.
For
And
now?
yeah, you never know. There could be
I
more.
like it. Oh yeah, I'm sure there will be more. Yeah,
Knowing me.
there will be more. I think you should. I really think you should bring back the Jackie Brat. I think literally that you could make some cool little the Jackie Brat show, or that could just be like your pseudonym, like your name, right? Like your famous name,
Jackie
Jackie
Brat.
Brat,
And
and
then
nobody will
I
ever
get
have any
sued by
idea.
Benjamin Bratt's wife. No, I'm
No,
kidding. I'm kidding.
no,
I'm kidding.
no.
I'm joking.
Please.
I'm joking.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Stalker.
She'll love you. Yeah. You could be doing her a favor. You don't even know. She could be trying to get rid of that guy for a
Right.
while and be
My
like,
husband might
really?
not be too thrilled.
Ah, you know.
Or maybe he will.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. Those are personal issues. I can't help it. As I say to people in the computer business, when they like look at each other, when a couple looks at each other and then they like look at me I go, that's an executive issue. You guys need to answer that for yourselves. I'll be over here when you have the answer.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, this has been a great show. Thanks
Thanks.
for taking my show idea of just looking at Pokerface. I'm glad that we actually both watched it, and
Yes, of
yeah.
course.
Now I'm gonna go download, or not download, but subscribe to. I'll give us a plug, the Peacock Network, because
There
that's
you
where you
go.
can find these shows. I actually,
Yes.
the next day, I was like on Hulu trying to find the show, and I'm like, I can't find this thing, and so I had to
Yeah.
Google the show again and be like, oh yeah, it's on the
It's on
Peacock
Peacock.
Network.
I know. I do mess those two up. Hulu and
Yes,
Peacock. I don't know why.
yes.
Similar.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.